3 years ago, I watched my wife Elizabeth struggling to recognize our grandkids' faces from across the room. She was 72. The ophthalmologist had just confirmed our worst fears: intermediate dry macular degeneration in both eyes. Drusen deposits scattered across her macula like tiny landmines, just waiting to steal her central vision. The doctor's words were clinical, but devastating. There's no cure. We can monitor it every 6 months. When it progresses to wet AMD, we'll start injections, $2,000 per injection, every 6 to 8 weeks, for the rest of your life. Elizabeth looked at me, with eyes that could barely see my face anymore. I'm going to go blind, aren't I? That's when I made a decision that changed everything. I'm a retired biology professor. I spent 40 years teaching cellular biology. If there was a nutritional intervention that could slow or reverse macular degeneration, I was going to find it. What I discovered over the next 6 months of research shocked me. Not because the science didn't exist, but because almost no one was talking about it. 60 days after Elizabeth started the breakfast protocol I'm about to share with you, her ophthalmologist sat back in his chair and stared at her retinal scans. "These drusen deposits," he said slowly, pointing at the screen. "They're smaller. Some of them have disappeared entirely." He looked at Elizabeth over his glasses. "What have you been doing?" "Just eating breakfast," she said. Today, 18 months later, Elizabeth's macular degeneration has not only stopped progressing, it has regressed. Her visual acuity improved from 20/80 to 20/40 in her left eye, from 2100 to 20/50 in her right eye. She reads books without magnification. She drives during the day. She watches our grandson play soccer from the bleachers and can actually see his face when he scores. And it all comes down to 3 specific foods she eats every single morning. Before I tell you what those foods are and why they work when expensive supplements often fail, you need to understand what's really happening inside your macula right now. Your macula is a tiny area at the center of your retina, about 5 millimeters across. That's smaller than a pencil eraser. But that microscopic patch of tissue is responsible for 100% of your central vision, everything you're reading right now, every face you recognize, every detail you see. Here's what goes wrong after 60. Your retinal pigment epithelium cells are supposed to clean up metabolic waste every single day. Your photoreceptors shed old damaged proteins, oxidized lipids, free radicals. Your RPE cells are supposed to digest this waste and recycle it. But after decades of this process, your RPE cells start to struggle. They can't keep up. The waste begins to accumulate. It forms deposits called drusen underneath your retina. Think of drusen like rust accumulating inside a pipe. At first, a little rust doesn't matter. Water still flows, but as rust builds up, it blocks the flow. Eventually, the pipe bursts. In your macula, drusen blocks the flow of nutrients from your blood vessels to your photoreceptors. Your photoreceptors start to starve, they malfunction, they die. That's when you notice straight lines looking wavy, blind spots in your central vision, difficulty reading, faces becoming blurry, and here's the terrifying part. By the time you notice symptoms, you've already lost 30 to 40% of your photoreceptors. They don't grow back. Once they're gone forever. This is why early intervention is absolutely critical. Now here's where it gets interesting. Your macula contains 2 nutrients in concentrations higher than anywhere else in your entire body: lutein and zeaxanthin. These are carotenoid pigments, the same compounds that make egg yolks yellow and corn bright orange, but unlike other carotenoids that distribute throughout your body, Lutein and zeaxanthin specifically accumulate in your macula. They cross the blood-retina barrier and concentrate in the exact layer of tissue where drusen forms and photoreceptors live. And they do three critical things. First, they act as blue light filters. Blue light is the highest energy visible light. It generates more oxidative stress in your retina than any other wavelength. Lutein and zeaxanthin physically absorb blue light before it can damage your photoreceptors. They're like internal sunglasses for your macula. Second, they're extraordinarily powerful antioxidants. They neutralize free radicals generated during the vision process itself. Every time light hits your photoreceptors and triggers a visual signal, it creates reactive oxygen species. Without adequate antioxidant protection, those free radicals damage the very cells that allow you to see. Third, lutein and zeaxanthin activate your cellular cleanup systems. They upregulate genes that help your RPE cells degrade and remove drusen deposits. They don't just prevent new damage, they help reverse existing damage. In 1994, Dr. Johanna Seddon and her team at Harvard Medical School published a landmark study. They followed 876 people aged 55 to 80 for 5 years. They measured dietary intake of carotenoids and tracked who developed macular degeneration. The results were stunning. People consuming 6 milligrams per day of lutein and zeaxanthin had a 66% lower risk of developing macular degeneration compared to those with low intake. 66%. That's a 2/3 reduction in risk just from diet. But here's the catch. After age 60, your body's ability to absorb lutein and zeaxanthin from food drops by 70 to 80%. You're not producing enough bile acids. Your gut lining is less permeable. Your cellular transport mechanisms slow down. So even if you're eating spinach and kale every day, you might only be absorbing 20 to 30% of the lutein and zeaxanthin in those foods. This is why lutein and zeaxanthin supplements often fail. Supplements contain isolated compounds in powder or capsule form. No fat matrix to carry them across your intestinal wall. Bioavailability studies show that lutein supplements have absorption rates of 10 to 15% at best. But there's one food that solves this problem completely. One food that delivers lutein and zeaxanthin in a form your aging digestive system can actually absorb. And that food is eggs, specifically the yolks. Now I know what you're thinking. Eggs? But what about cholesterol? Let me put this to rest right now with the latest science. In 2015, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee removed the 300 milligram daily limit on dietary cholesterol. Why? Because decades of research have conclusively shown that dietary cholesterol has a minimal impact on blood cholesterol levels in 93% of people. The American Heart Association, the British Medical Journal, and JAMA all have published meta-analyses confirming there's no association between egg consumption and heart disease in healthy individuals. And for vision specifically, eggs are unmatched. Here's why. Egg yolks contain approximately 200 to 300 micrograms of lutein and zeaxanthin combined. That doesn't sound like much compared to spinach, which boasts 11 milligrams per cup. But here's the game changer. The lutein and zeaxanthin in egg yolks are bound to phospholipids and triglycerides, fat molecules. This creates a natural delivery system that your intestines are designed to absorb. The studies at Tufts University unequivocally demonstrated that the bioavailability of lutein from eggs is 3 to 5 times higher than from vegetables. One study even dared to compare eating just 1 egg per day versus 2.5 cups of raw spinach. Blood levels of lutein and zeaxanthin increased more from the single egg. But eggs alone aren't enough. The AREDS-2 study profoundly revealed that lutein and zeaxanthin work synergistically with omega-3 fatty acids, specifically DHA and EPA. Your photoreceptor outer segments are a staggering 50% DHA by weight. It's a long-chain omega-3 fatty acid that renders cell membranes flexible and exquisitely responsive to light. Without adequate DHA, your photoreceptors simply can't function properly. DHA also wields profound anti-inflammatory effects in the retina. Chronic low-grade inflammation is a major driver of macular degeneration. Multiple studies have unequivocally shown that people with high omega-3 intake have a 41 to 42% lower risk of advanced macular degeneration. The very best source of DHA and EPA? Fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines. And that's where the third food comes into play: chia seeds. Just 2 tablespoons of chia seeds contain a whopping 5 grams of omega-3 fatty acids. Chia seeds are also incredibly rich in antioxidants. Chlorogenic acid, caffeic acid, quercetin. These polyphenols enhance the absorption and utilization of lutein and zeaxanthin from the eggs you're eating at the same meal. More importantly, chia seeds stabilize blood sugar. They're loaded with soluble fiber that slows glucose absorption. This is absolutely critical because high blood sugar accelerates a process called glycation. Sugar molecules then bind to proteins in your retina and damage them. So, here's the breakfast protocol that reversed Elizabeth's macular degeneration in just 60 days. 2 whole eggs, cooked any way you prefer, scrambled, fried, poached, soft-boiled. The key is to eat the yolks. Do not discard them. The yolk is where 100% of the lutein and zeaxanthin live. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, mixed into oatmeal, yogurt, or a smoothie. You can also make chia pudding the night before by mixing chia seeds with almond milk and letting it gel in the refrigerator overnight. And 1 serving of fatty fish, 3 times per week: salmon, sardines, mackerel, wild caught, when possible, because wild fish boast higher omega-3 content than farmed. Elizabeth started this protocol on March 14, 2022. I kept detailed notes. A research journal, just like I used to do in the lobby. Week 1. No changes. Blood levels of lutein and zeaxanthin take time to rise, but she was consistent. 2 eggs every single morning, chia seed pudding with blueberries, salmon twice that first week. Week 2, still no noticeable change in vision. But something else happened. She told me her eyes felt less strained at the end of the day, less gritty, less dry. Week 3. She mentioned that street signs seemed slightly sharper when I was driving. Not dramatic, but noticeable. Week 4. We had her follow-up appointment. Visual acuity was unchanged. 20/80 left eye, 20/100 right eye. Drusen was stable. He said, "Keep monitoring. See you in 6 months." But I knew that 4 weeks wasn't enough time to see structural changes. Lutein and zeaxanthin take 8 to 12 weeks to significantly increase macular pigment density. I told Elizabeth we needed to stay the course. Week 6. She was reading the newspaper without her magnifying glass, just her regular reading glasses. She looked at me with this expression of cautious hope. "I think it's working." Week 8. She drove to the grocery store by herself for the first time in a year during the day. She said the road signs were clear. She could see pedestrians. She felt safe. Week 12. 60 days after she started the protocol. We went back to the ophthalmologist for an unscheduled visit. I told him we wanted updated scans. He dilated her eyes, took optical coherence tomography scans, fundus photography, visual field tests. Then he pulled up the comparison images, March scans next to June scans, side by side. He didn't say anything for a long time. He just stared at the screen, zooming in, zooming out. Finally, he turned to us. These scans are remarkable. Your drusen deposits have decreased in size. Some of the smaller ones have resolved completely. Your retinal thickness has normalized in areas where it was thinning, and your visual acuity improved 2 lines on the chart. What exactly are you doing? Elizabeth told him. 2 eggs every morning, chia seeds, wild salmon 3 times a week. That's it. He shook his head. Slowly. I've been practicing ophthalmology for 28 years. I've never seen intermediate dry AMD regress like this without pharmaceutical intervention. Whatever you're doing, don't stop. That was 18 months ago. Elizabeth has continued the breakfast protocol every single day. Her most recent scans 3 months ago showed continued stability, no new drusen formation. Existing drusen remain smaller or resolved. Visual acuity is holding at 20/40 left eye, 20/50 right eye. She's not just maintaining, she's living. She reads novels, she does crossword puzzles, she paints watercolors, she watches movies without asking me what's happening on screen. Now, let me walk you through exactly why this protocol works at the cellular level. When you eat 2 eggs, the lutein and zeaxanthin in the yolks are packaged with cholesterol and phospholipids. They form mixed micelles in your small intestine. Those micelles are absorbed and packaged into chylomicrons, which enter your lymphatic system and then your bloodstream. From there, lutein and zeaxanthin bind to lipoproteins and circulate through your body. When they reach the blood vessels in your retina, they encounter specialized transport proteins that recognize them and actively transport them across the blood-retina barrier. Once inside your retina, lutein and zeaxanthin accumulate in specific layers. Zeaxanthin concentrates in the fovea, the very center of your macula. Lutein accumulates in the surrounding parafoveal region, and here's what they do once they're there. In the outer plexiform layer, lutein and zeaxanthin absorb blue light photons before they reach your photoreceptors. Blue light, between 400 and 500 nanometers wavelength, is the most damaging to retinal tissue. By absorbing blue light, lutein and zeaxanthin reduce oxidative stress by up to 40%. In the retinal pigment epithelium, lutein and zeaxanthin activate NRF2. This is your cell's master antioxidant defense system. When NRF2 activates, it turns on genes that produce glutathione, superoxide dismutase, catalase, and other antioxidant enzymes. This is critical for clearing drusen deposits. Drusen deposits are composed of oxidized lipids, damaged proteins, and cellular debris. When your RPE cells can degrade these components more efficiently, drusen deposits shrink. The omega-3 fatty acids work through a different mechanism. DHA integrates into photoreceptor membranes. It makes those membranes highly flexible. This flexibility is essential for the rapid changes that occur when light hits rhodopsin and triggers the visual signal. DHA also suppresses inflammation by competing with arachidonic acid and getting converted into resolvins and protectins, anti-inflammatory mediators that stabilize blood vessels and prevent the abnormal vessel growth that characterizes wet macular degeneration. The chia seeds enhance the entire system. The soluble fiber slows gastric emptying. This means nutrients are released gradually over several hours. This sustained release improves absorption. The polyphenols in chia seeds increase the activity of enzymes in your gut that help package carotenoids into micelles. This makes lutein and zeaxanthin from the eggs even more bioavailable, but timing matters. You need to eat these foods in the morning, not at lunch, not at dinner, at breakfast. Your body's absorption of fat-soluble nutrients is highest in the morning. Your bile acid secretion peaks during and after your first meal of the day. Bile acids are essential for emulsifying fats and creating the micelles that carry lutein, zeaxanthin, and omega-3 fatty acids into your bloodstream. Also, eating protein and healthy fats at breakfast stabilizes your blood sugar for the entire day. For macular degeneration, stable blood sugar is non-negotiable. So here's the exact protocol Elizabeth has followed for 18 months. Every morning, within 1 hour of waking, eat 2 whole eggs. The cooking method doesn't matter much. Scrambled, fried in butter or olive oil, poached, soft-boiled. Elizabeth usually scrambles hers with spinach, tomatoes and mushrooms. The vegetables add additional antioxidants and fiber. Add 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. You can mix them into Greek yogurt, stir them into oatmeal, blend them into a smoothie with berries and almond milk. Or make chia pudding. 3 times per week, include fatty fish. A 4-ounce serving of wild salmon provides over 1 gram of combined DHA and EPA. Drink plenty of water. At least 8 ounces with breakfast. Avoid high-sugar foods at breakfast. No pastries, donuts, fruit juice, or sweetened cereals. Now let's talk about what to expect week by week, week 1 and 2. You won't notice any changes in vision. This is normal. Lutein and zeaxanthin are building up in your bloodstream, but they haven't significantly increased macular pigment density yet. Week 3 and 4. Some people start noticing subtle improvements. Colors might seem slightly more vibrant. Contrast sensitivity may improve. Night vision sometimes improves during this phase, week 5 through 8. This is when measurable changes start to occur. Subjectively, you should notice improvements in visual acuity. Reading might become easier. Street signs might be clearer from farther away. Week 9 through 12. By this point, you've completed 60 days. If you're going to see structural changes on retinal scans, this is when they'll start to show up. Smaller drusen deposits may shrink or disappear. Visual acuity often improves by 1 to 2 lines on the eye chart. Beyond 12 weeks, continue the protocol indefinitely. This isn't a temporary intervention. It's a lifestyle change. Now I want to address some common questions. What if I can't eat eggs because of allergies? Increase your intake of cooked, dark, leafy greens significantly. 2 cups of cooked kale or collard greens per day. You must cook them to break down the cell walls, and you must eat them with a generous amount of healthy fat, olive oil, avocado, nuts. What if I'm vegetarian or vegan and can't eat fish? Algae-based DHA and EPA supplements are your best option. Look for supplements providing at least 500 milligrams of combined DHA and EPA per day. What if I have high cholesterol? Recent research has overturned decades of dogma about dietary cholesterol. For the vast majority of people, eating eggs does not significantly raise LDL cholesterol. What if I'm already taking AREDS 2 supplements? Continue taking them. The breakfast protocol is complementary. You're getting lutein and zeaxanthin from both whole foods and supplements, which is fine. What if I've already progressed to wet AMD and I'm getting injections? Do not stop your injections. Wet AMD requires medical treatment. But you can absolutely add the breakfast protocol alongside your injections. Now here's something most doctors won't tell you. The timing of these interventions matters in terms of reversibility. If you have early AMD with just a few small drusen deposits, nutritional intervention can often completely reverse the condition. If you have intermediate AMD with larger drusen deposits, you can usually stop progression and achieve some degree of regression. This is where Elizabeth was. If you have advanced geographic atrophy or wet AMD, you can still benefit, but you won't reverse the damage that's already occurred. This is why I'm so passionate about getting this information to people before they have symptoms. Prevention is 10 times easier than treatment. Last month, Elizabeth was talking to a woman named Patricia who's 76. Patricia mentioned that she'd been diagnosed with intermediate dry AMD 2 years ago. Her ophthalmologist told her there was nothing she could do except take a REDS2 supplements and wait. Elizabeth showed Patricia her retinal scan progression, the before and after images. 3 months later, Patricia called Elizabeth. She'd been following the protocol religiously. She just had her 6-month follow-up. For the first time in 2 years, her scans showed improvement instead of progression. If you've watched this far, you clearly care about protecting your vision. Here's what I want you to do. Try this protocol for 12 weeks. Commit fully. 2 eggs every morning. 2 tablespoons chia seeds. Okay, now let's talk diet. Aim for fatty fish 3 times a week. No cheating, people. No skipping days. This is important. And please, track your symptoms. Are those straight lines looking straighter now? Is reading becoming easier? Really pay attention. If you have regular appointments with an ophthalmologist, ask for updated scans at the 3-month mark. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. I truly believe you'll see changes, not miraculous overnight transformations, but real, measurable improvements in your vision and in your retinal health. Before I wrap this up, I want to talk about something that's really important to me. Personally, creating content like this takes an enormous amount of time. I spent over 100 hours digging through scientific literature. Before I felt confident enough to put Elizabeth on this protocol, I don't charge for this information. I'm not selling supplements or meal plans or one-on-one consultations. This video is free. My goal is to get this information to as many people as possible before they lose vision that can't be restored. We're talking about preventing permanent damage here. But producing content like this does have costs. If this video has given you hope or helped you understand how to protect your vision, I want to ask you to consider supporting this channel through the Super Thanks button below. It's a small way to show appreciation. Think of it this way. If this breakfast protocol helps you avoid even one anti-VEGF injection, you've saved $2,000. Easy. If it helps you avoid progression to advanced AMD, you've potentially saved tens of thousands in medical costs. We're talking about a serious return on investment here. A $5 or $10 or $20 super thanks is a way of saying this information has value. Every contribution helps me continue doing this work. It allows me to spend time reading studies, interviewing researchers, and translating complex science into actionable protocols that everyone can understand. The more support this video gets, the more the algorithm shows it to other people who need it. Your contribution literally helps spread this information to thousands of others. It has a real, tangible impact. So if this resonated with you, click that super thanks button. Whatever amount feels right to you, every little bit helps. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Are you over 60? Have you been diagnosed with macular degeneration? Are you going to try this breakfast protocol? Seriously, tell me. Write the word committed in the comments if you're going to start this tomorrow morning. I want to see how many of you are ready to take action and take control of your eye health. If you've already been eating eggs and fish regularly, tell me your experience. Has your vision stayed stable? I'm genuinely curious. Let me close with this. Elizabeth's journey from facing progressive vision loss to regaining functional sight changed our lives. She's 74 now. She's painting again. She's reading to our grandkids. She's living independently without the constant fear of going blind. That's the power of this protocol. There is something you can do. You can change what you eat for breakfast. It's a small change that yields huge results. Your macula needs lutein, zeaxanthin, and omega-3 fatty acids. Most people over 60 aren't getting enough. And most people aren't getting them in a bioavailable form that their aging digestive system can actually absorb. This is key. 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, fatty fish, 3 times a week, every morning, starting tomorrow. No excuses. That's the protocol that reversed Elizabeth's macular degeneration in 60 days. That's the protocol supported by Harvard research and the AREDS 2 trial. It's science-backed and proven to work. Try it for 12 weeks. Track your results carefully. And let me know what happens. I want to hear your success stories. Thank you for watching. Protect your vision. It's one of the most precious gifts you have. Don't take it for granted. Important disclaimer. This content is for educational purposes only. It is not medical advice and does not replace professional care from a qualified ophthalmologist. If you have macular degeneration or any eye condition, continue seeing your eye doctor regularly. Do not stop any prescribed treatments or medications without consulting your physician. Individual results may vary. What worked for Elizabeth may not work identically for everyone due to genetic factors, disease severity, and overall health status. Always discuss significant dietary changes with your healthcare provider, especially if you have existing medical conditions or take medications. This protocol is meant to complement, not replace, standard medical care for age-related macular degeneration. We're talking about adding to your existing care routine, not replacing it.